Hello, viewers. This is Paladin of Odin, and this is another episode of the Standard Commentary series. And it looks, is this a Bant Aggro mirror match post-rotation? I mean, I'm not surprised since, Bant, before rotation was at 43% of the field. 43. That is a ridiculously high number. Post-rotation, the numbers have fallen to 3%. My, how the mighty have fallen. But that does mean that there are a lot of people with Bant Aggro decks still. So most likely, you're not going to see them in tournaments, but you're going to see people playing them because it's still not a bad deck. It's just lost some very powerful cards, and it's not as good as it used to be. But, some new cards like Filigree Familiar. Really like this little guy. Can't remember what he's called. I can see the art in my mind, but I can't remember it. He's a baby version of another card, and I just cannot remember what it's called. Okay, so 5/5 Lamholt Pacifist, thanks to double Thalia's Lieutenants. The other side has a Tireless Tracker, his Filigree Familiar. He cast a Revolutionary Rebuff against a Lamholt Pacifist earlier. But so far, things are fairly even, except for the fact that, he's got a very big creature over there. Oh, and there's a good play, sacrificing the Familiar to play Elderdeep Fiend, which, you get to draw a card when it dies, you gain 2 life when it comes into play. It has a 3 mana cost, so that drops the Elderdeep Fiend's emerge cost down to a total of 5. And, as usual, Elderdeep Fiend effectively denies your opponent a turn. Whether you go for their land so they can't do anything that turn, or you go for their creatures so they can't attack that turn. But, this guy is incredibly useful. And, a 2/2 body is, nothing to scoff at. Tireless Tracker from the other side. But, Bant Aggro post-rotation, it's fairly similar to pre-rotation, but, as we've seen from this guy's deck, he's playing some new cards. The new sort of mana leak. I've heard people call it the new mana leak, but it's not. It's a good card. I really like Filigree Familiar. And then he's playing Elderdeep Fiend, which, isn't new in this rotation, but it's new in this deck archetype, thanks to the rotation. Another Tireless Tracker. And he's attacking in with the Elderdeep Fiend. It's 5 damage. Unfortunately, his opponent currently has... Oh, he sacrificed the Elderdeep Fiend to play another Elderdeep Fiend. Well done. It's a very good way of keeping your opponent locked down as long as you can keep up the pressure. He just basically denied him 2 combat steps in a row. And his opponent has some really big creatures. He's got a 6/6, a 4/4, a 2/2's not so big, a 3/2, and, it's your typical Bant Aggro deck where, he's got humans. So these lieutenants are going to trigger and going to get bigger. And then, thanks to Tireless Tracker's ability, he could pop these clue tokens and make him bigger as well. An all-out combat attack from this side right now would be pretty devastating. Ooh, especially with an Always Watching on top. So, he's got this under control right now. he really needs a way to gain control of it again on his next turn. You know, a third Elder Deep Fiend would be far, far too much to hope for in his situation, but, you know, the alternatives are things like Fumigate, which means he loses his creatures, or... Actually... Yeah, all he has to do is pop one more clue token. And then he's got lethal. Five, 15. Done. Duskwatch Recruiter. Going into the attack phase. Your opponent is tapped out. You have the he didn't see it. Well, there's 5 damage from the Elder Deep Fiend, and now the other side gets to actually do something, and his creatures are much bigger and much scarier than yours. He also has a lot of mana, which means he can sacrifice, say, 1 clue token, get another card, possibly draw something that he can play. And, you know, he could theoretically do that again and still have enough mana to be able to play something. At the moment, you know, a 7/7 Vigilance, a 5/5 Vigilance, a 3/3 Vigilance, and a 6/5 Vigilance. Another Tireless Tracker. Okay, so the lieutenants get buffed up again. And unless he has something better to do, I would sacrifice a clue token. And he's going almost all in. He's going to hold back the 4/4 because it could die quite easily. 7/7, 6/6, and a 6/5, and the 6/5 could very easily become a 7/6 at instant speed. So sacrificing a clue token to make his Tireless Trackers bigger. And all he really has to do... Well, no, because that wouldn't guarantee it. I was going to say, all he has to do is chump block one of these creatures, and he can return strike on the next turn with lethal, but then I remembered, these guys have vigilance. So he's going to trade... Well, he's going to trade here. He's still going to take 6 damage. And pretty much game from there. He's down to 11. He's got 4 cards in hand, but he's only got 6 mana to use. And his opponent's board is much better than his. About the only thing that could save him here would be something along the lines of Fumigate. Yeah, Tireless Tracker isn't going to cut it. Because he's got a clue token that he can pop to make him a 6/5 and him an 8/7. All he needs is a human, and he can make this guy a 7/7 and a 4/4. Or a 5/5, excuse me. 2 humans, and that's even worse for birds here. Another Tireless Tracker. And another Thalia's Lieutenant. Popping the clue token, not really going to help you all that much. He can attack in with 4 creatures. He can block with 2 creatures. at the most, he's going to deal 10 oh, no. Let's see. At the most, he's going to deal 13 damage. So, yeah, that's game. And unfortunately for Birds, he had that. All he had to do was pop that one more clue token, attack all in, and that game would have been his. But that's the problem. We can see that from the outside of the game. He's in the game. He's feeling all the stresses of, what to play, when to play it, board states versus board states, all the pressure of being the player, whereas we are just the spectators. And, it's much easier to be a spectator and get everything right than it is to be the player and get everything right. So, mistakes can happen. Unfortunately for him, it cost him that game. But that was a pretty good game, interesting plays. The top side looked almost identical to pre-rotation Bant Aggro. The other side was actually bringing in some new cards to make, a new deck, new-ish deck. But I'm going to end the video there. That was Bant Aggro Mirror in post-rotation. So if you liked what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button for me, and I will see you in the next video.